Colombia's president, joined by a distinguished international commission, has met a delegation from the FARC political party to review progress on implementing the peace accords signed in 2016. Juan Manuel Santos said delegates had discussed progress and priorities aimed at restoring peace and coexistence. Today we had the opportunity to examine in great detail the advances as well as the challenges and bottlenecks involved in peace building and starting the most complex peace agreement witnessed by the world in the last 30 years. But the leader of the FARC, now a political party known as the Revolutionary Alternative Common Force, said it felt parts of the agreement had not been upheld. Nonetheless, it was agreed that the process will continue to go forward. The peace accord ended a civil war that had lasted a half-century. The 2016 Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Santos for his efforts. It's not like this in the holiday guides. New York's iconic Times Square has been hit by the winter storm that's brought death and destruction to the northeastern United States. Mayor Bill de Blasio's declared a weather emergency for the city, where locals and tourists alike are making the best of the big freeze.
This is heavy. It's heavy snow. And when it's wet, it's like you can't hardly move it.
I think it's a great novelty. I don't know if I'd like it seasonally. I'm pretty comfortable with the warmth in Australia.
Thousands of flights have been cancelled and delayed. The whiteout conditions saw planes grounded temporarily at New York City's two main airports, and many hoping to fly from here at Newark Airport in New Jersey were disappointed.
Our flight was cancelled, and we never got any information that was being cancelled. And now we're delayed, and we're not sure if we're going to be flying out of here anytime soon.
The blizzards blasted Boston, where schools will remain closed today. And flooding in the cities tied a 40-year record, the National Weather Service said. The snowfalls come amid a cold snap that's gripped much of the United States for over a week now and left more than a dozen people dead.
Donald Trump and Tony Blair may have very different political views, but the US President and the former British Prime Minister agree on at least one thing. Mr. Blair has told Euronews that some aspects of Michael Wolff's best-selling book about the Trump presidency, The Fire and the Fury, are completely fabricated. In particular, he referred to claims he'd said British intelligence may have spied on Trump during his presidential election campaign.
This is an example of the crazy way news and politics works today. I mean, this story was never put to me, by the way, before it was written in this so-called book. It is a complete fabrication from beginning to end. I've never had any such conversation, not in the White House, out of the White House, with the person in the White House, with anyone else, at any time, any place. And to anyone who actually knows about these things, the idea that the British intelligence services would start to interfere and spy on American presidential candidates is utterly absurd. So, anyway, there it is. This is the way it happens. You know, this thing's written. You know, I'm denying it, but it's already halfway around the world. It's just a crazy situation.
His comments come as lawyers for Donald Trump are demanding former advisor Steve Bannon cease and desist from talking about Michael Wolff's book, which they're trying to stop from being published.
France is gradually returning to normal after the havoc wreaked by Storm Eleanor, although the French Alps are on maximum avalanche alert following heavy snowfalls. At least 3 people have died and 2 more reported missing since Wednesday. These include a man found dead under a snowdrift and a fireman who was swept away in torrential waters during a rescue operation. Search is also underway for 2 men feared drowned in the Saône and Loire and Haute-Marne regions. Altogether, 20 départements remain on high alert, due mainly to snowfalls, heavy rain and flooding in the east, north and southeast of the country. As well as France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, Ireland and Great Britain were also affected by Storm Eleanor's high winds and heavy rains.
The leaders of Hungary and Ireland have rejected any effort to harmonise corporate and other tax rules across the EU, saying such moves would damage competition in the single market. They spoke to reporters in Budapest. We Hungarians believe taxation is an important component of competition. Lowering taxes is generally a good policy, and we would not like to see any regulation in the European Union which would tie the hands of Hungary in tax policy. The Taoiseach was just as firmly opposed.
The European economy is strongest if there is competition among member states. For example, competition when it comes to taxation. And we share a view as governments that we should continue to have competition among member states in terms of tax policy, and reaffirmed our shared commitment to tax sovereignty.
Ireland's 12.5% corporate tax rate is among the lowest in the 28-member bloc. Hungary, which relies heavily on foreign investment to power its economy, runs the lowest rate in the EU at 9%.
A South Korean government spokesman has confirmed that North Korea has accepted an invitation to hold high-level talks next week. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has been in touch by phone with US President Donald Trump, who's reported to have said that the talks would be a good thing. The meeting is scheduled to take place on January the 9th and is expected to focus on the participation of North Korean athletes in the Winter Olympics, due to take place in the south next month. However, other areas of mutual interest are also expected to be on the agenda. Seoul has agreed with Washington that there will be no military drills during the Games, which are being seen as a groundbreaking chance to improve relations between the two Koreas.
Publications been brought forward to today of the explosive book on the Trump administration, despite threats of legal action by the US president, notably targeting his former aide, Steve Bannon. He's cited in the book making critical and damaging remarks, but Bannon's latest comments were more complimentary.
The President of the United States is a great man. You know, I support him day in and day out, whether going through the country giving the Trump miracle speech or on the show or on the website, so I don't think you have to worry about that. But I appreciate the kind words.
Trump had said his ex-advisor had lost his mind after the comments attributed to him in the book were made public, but seemed happy at the apparent turnaround.
I don't know, he called me a great man last night, so, you know, he obviously changed his tune pretty quick. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you. I don't talk to him. I don't talk to him. That's just a misnomer. Thank you.
The White House spokeswoman heaped scorn on the book at her briefing. Fire and fury inside the Trump White House portrays her boss as not really wanting to win the presidency. In the book, Bannon's quoted as describing a pre-election meeting with a group of Russians at Trump Tower as treasonous.
But in particular with most Republican senators.
Social networking service Twitter has blocked the account of Greek far-right party Golden Dawn. The suspension comes 2 weeks after Twitter announced new policies to keep violent and hateful groups off its platform. Golden Dawn has ridden a wave of Greek nationalist, anti-immigrant sentiment to become the country's third largest party. The party said the ban was orchestrated by the entangled news media and the corrupt political power which is controlled by the New World Order. A statement on the party website called the suspension a brutal, undemocratic act that violates our political rights as well as the individual rights of 500,000 Greek Golden Dawn voters. Twitter has not confirmed that the block is a result of its new policy.
The United States says it's suspending almost all security aid to Pakistan over what it sees as a failure to deal with terrorist groups operating in the country. Earlier this week, President Trump accused Pakistan of lying and deceiving the US while still receiving billions in aid.
Until the Pakistani government takes decisive action against groups, including the Afghan Taliban and the Haqqani network, we consider them to be destabilizing the region and also targeting US personnel. The United States will suspend that kind of security assistance to Pakistan.
Pakistan has rejected the accusation that it isn't doing enough and has pushed back against the US despite it being a key ally in the region. It called comments by President Donald Trump incomprehensible and said that he had negated decades of sacrifices made by the Pakistani nation.
E televidente, momento para outro espaço comercial. Agora nós estamos back no Informe Deportivo.